We are in the thick of it with makeup releases, and I have spent several weeks testing the most popular, most viral product releases at Sephora. And I want to share with you guys all of my thoughts, my first impressions here, so you guys know what might work best for you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, then welcome. My name is Christina, and as I said today, we are going to be talking about all of the new Sephora releases. And I want to say a really big thank you to Sephora for sponsoring today's video. And if you have not already, I would definitely encourage you to sign up to become a Sephora Beauty Insider member. It is completely free. You just enter your email, and as a member, you earn points that go towards rewards, whether it be products or even dollar amounts. And you're also able to take advantage of early access releases in app, and there are also some shipping perks. So as a member, you will get free standard 1 to 3 day shipping on all US merchandise orders, and there's no minimum purchase required versus guest checkout orders that receive a free standard 1 to 3 day shipping with a minimum of $50 purchases. And as always, everything that I'm talking about today will be in the description box down below for you guys, so you can easily shop these products. And as always, I really appreciate you guys every time that you shop through my links, because it allows me to continue creating content such as this for all of you. The first thing I want to talk about, because I can't wait to talk about this, is the One Size blotting spray. This is the Oil Sucker. I love her. If there is anything within the new Sephora releases that I would consider being a game changer, truly, I think that this is it. I was skeptical about the claims of this, but I also really trusted it because I feel like One Size has kind of gained credibility within the oily textured, oily skinned community, if you will. They have truly proven that their products will stand the test of time when it comes to oily skin. I have tested this with several different faces of makeup. I've tested it at different levels of oiliness. I've tested it being outdoors. I've tested it just hanging out indoors. It truly has done so well in all case scenarios. I feel like this actually does suck up the oils in the skin in real time. This compared to something like the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm, I feel like that is more of a proactive type of product that allows you to control the oils throughout the day. Whereas with this one, this will sort of eliminate the oils on contact once the oils have already started to produce. You have to do a pretty heavy, even layer, I will say, to get super noticeable results at the end of the day. But in the middle of the day, if you were to use this as a touch-up product, you wouldn't need as much. It really just depends on how much oil you have. I've done it to where I do one very even spray throughout my entire face, and I've done it where I've had to do a layer, let it dry, and then do another layer, and then I feel like I get enough oil blotting, if you will. I got the mini because one, I wanted to test it out, and two, I felt like if it's going to be a touch-up product, I wanted something that was small, something compact that I could just throw in my purse. And I really, really do love this. It is a strong sprayer because there are powder elements to this, so just make sure that you're careful. Maybe wipe the nozzle, I've done that a couple times, and do like one spritz into a napkin before spraying it on your face. I haven't noticed any like buildup or spittiness per se, but I could see that happening if you don't make sure that this is like cleaned up. Another mist spray type of product is from Cool Feet, and this is the Kili Kili Glow Mist. If you know, you know. My Filipinos, the Kili Kili, it gave me a little chuckle, to be honest. If you don't know, Kili Kili in Tagalog means armpit. I know that's not what they were going for, but it was just kind of fun and cute. But that aside, this took me a little while to really understand. So this is marketed as being a multi-purpose type of spray, and it is a glow spray. So for me, I was a little bit more hesitant. I found the best way to use this for me is that it is a great spray for a full makeup refresh redo without having to remove your makeup. So like I mentioned, I am very oily, and sometimes I don't want to have to redo my makeup when I'm working throughout the day and I have to test out a bunch of different products. Maybe I have to prepare to film and I don't want to just do the whole process over. If I drench my skin in this, like I do like a bath of this on the skin, it will melt down my powders so nicely that they kind of become creamy, and then I can go on top of that with my concealers or more foundation if I want to, and oh my goodness, it gives you such a beautiful refresh, I guess, like a true reset of your makeup. And you don't have to like redo your entire face. I did that for one of the videos recently, and I was so surprised at how smooth and fresh my makeup looked. It looked amazing. So I think that if you find you kind of overdid it with your makeup, you could go in with a little bit of this just to kind of melt down your makeup, make it look a little bit more cohesive. Or maybe you are someone that has more dry skin and you are looking for something that is a bit more hydrating and something that will kind of refresh the skin throughout the day. I actually feel like this would be great for that. I wouldn't use this as a setting spray. I do feel like it's a little bit too hydrating for myself. I've used it as prep also, and I think that's nice, but I see the most difference whenever I'm using it as more of a melting down powder situation or melting down my entire face of makeup situation. Next, we've got a sunscreen stick. This is from Edam. It's the Sunsway Daily Sunscreen and Blurring Primer. It has an SPF 50 plus. So far, I really like this one. I will say when I first saw it, I was kind of skeptical because the marketing was weird to me. They did use a UV camera. If you guys are not familiar, it's one of those cameras that kind of give a negative effect, and you're able to see the coverage of a sunscreen on the skin whenever you use a camera like that. However, I feel like the marketing was odd because those UV cameras just show where the sunscreen covers on the skin, and it doesn't necessarily or not at all indicate the efficacy of it. You've probably heard that with sunscreen sticks, they're more so for on-the-go touch-up sunscreens versus just being a sunscreen on its own. You would need so much product, but the way that the marketing was, it almost seemed like they were trying to insinuate that it was more effective because of the coverage versus showing that you get full coverage with the stick. You know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense, and I hope I'm not reading that wrong, but that's just the way that I kind of took it. So I will be honest and say that with sunscreen sticks, I never found a sunscreen stick that is sort of a mattifying, blurring sunscreen stick that I enjoyed. I always find that they either pill on the skin or they're too hard and they don't blend well. They don't melt down enough onto the skin for me to feel like I'm actually covering the skin with the sunscreen. However, I feel like this one melts down just enough to where you're able to cover the skin evenly like the UV camera shows. And I really like that this seems to not pill whenever you apply it on the skin. It doesn't leave the skin feeling greasy because there are a lot of sunscreen sticks that do have more of that greasy factor to it, but it also doesn't leave the skin feeling like it's sucked up the hydration and makes it feel dry. It has a really good glide, and it kind of like dries down onto the skin as well. I have used it as a primer, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't noticed a difference with this being a primer in the terms of how it blurs, but I do like the idea of having that extra protection, especially when I'm out and about and maybe I'm in the car or something and I can use this, and I have used this on my arms, on my hands, on my face. I have seen people use this over their makeup, and I have seen that it's taken my makeup off. Like I'll see it on the stick, but on the skin it doesn't look like a streak. So the makeup is coming off, but it's not showing any demarcation whenever you use it. Hopefully that makes sense. I've been liking to use this as extra protection over my already sunscreened face. And like I said, as a touch-up product, specifically when I'm not wearing that much makeup or no makeup at all. This one out of everything is going to be one of the newer ones to me. I've tested this out twice. I have it on today. This is the Makeup Forever Balancing and Perfecting Longwear Foundation. I picked up the shade 222N Sunstone. This is a really great match for me, you guys. This has medium to high coverage. It does say that it has buildable full coverage, but I don't think that it's full coverage on myself. I did do an even layer of this on my skin, and I allowed that layer to dry down, and then I went on top of the areas that I felt like I needed a little bit more coverage as well, and did that, let it dry, and then I would blend it out just to see if again I could build up that coverage. And while it does build up, I still wouldn't necessarily say that this is a full coverage foundation, but it is on the higher end of coverage for a lot of the foundations that I use in my day-to-day. And I do think that this looks really beautiful upon application. Now, it does have a very strong scent. It has a baby powder sort of scent to it. It really reminds me of my baby niece, and I think it's so adorable and fun. But I know that a lot of people don't like scented products, and I totally understand that. But I haven't noticed that this is irritating my skin at all, and so far it hasn't broken me out. I think the best part about this foundation is going to be the finish of it. I think that it looks like it has a really, really natural skin finish that can lean a little bit more satin. It's not greasy, it's not dewy, but it's not mattifying and like flat on the skin. And I think that it's great because while it does look a little bit more satin, it does dry down and it allows products to sit on top of it really well versus something that may be a little too dewy and might slip and slide underneath creams and liquids and stuff like that. This formula does say that it's a self-adapting formulation, so it either adds hydration or it controls oils. I don't know necessarily how they came to that conclusion with the claims, but I did get oily at the end of the day, but I will say that it was mainly concentrated in my T-zone. If a foundation isn't really controlling my oils, I do notice it all over my face, like all in my forehead, on my cheeks, in my T-zone, pretty much everywhere. But I did find that this one was concentrated more on the center of my forehead and definitely around my nose. The big con for this one is it definitely seeps into my nose creases here, and it looks a little bit dry on the tip of my nose if I use too much powder on top of it. But with that being said, I do powder this down. It does look really nice and airbrushed and blurred and stuff. And I think because it starts off a little bit more hydrated, it definitely lends to the fact that this doesn't end up looking too flat, matte, and powdery. I like it so far. It's not going to necessarily replace any of my go-to foundations just yet, but I do think it's a strong contender for one of the foundations that I'll reach for when I want a little bit more coverage. Oh, but I will say it is quite expensive. It's $49, which I feel like is quite pricey. I had to try out the new Fenty Beauty Cream bronzer. This is the Sunstalker Soufflé in number 4 Maple Glaze. As you can see here, it's this beautiful warm bronzer that doesn't lean too orange, doesn't lean too red, but it is slightly on the warmer side because of course it is a bronzer. Now, I'm not sure if this shade is the perfect shade for me per se. I was between this one and Brown Butter, but I felt like Brown Butter was leaning more towards a contour versus a bronzer on my skin tone. So I did go with Maple Glaze, but I wish that there was a shade between the two, like right there in the middle, because I feel like whatever that may be, that would have been my perfect shade. With the shade aside, I like how this can be built up on itself without it getting heavy. This is going to be that bouncy texture, kind of like that moussey, pillowy blush texture that we've been seeing, but in a bronzer, which was really exciting for me to see. I would say it's softer, so you can really push down and get some indentations in there. And I think because of the way that this is pressed and the texture of it, it doesn't dispense too much product onto your brush at one time. It definitely gives you a soft wash of color each time you kind of dip your brush in there. And I would go in with a more dense brush if you want something that's going to be a little bit more impactful. But again, that's with the knowledge that this seems to be just deep enough to show up on my skin, but it blurs the skin really well. I think because of that texture, it really does allow it to just look super airbrushed and blurred on the skin. It's the perfect blendable formula that isn't greasy, since it does dry down to a powder almost instantly when it touches the skin. And I am excited about seeing more of these like bouncy textures. I do feel like this is slightly expensive for the payoff that I get off of this color. It's $39, and I do feel like if I had a different color that was slightly deeper, like I said, kind of in the middle of this one and the step up, I would probably feel differently. But I definitely have to like use a lot of this, so I'm not quite sure how long this is going to last. Granted, you know, products last a lot longer than we think they will. Another cream bronzer, we're talking about the Summer Fridays cream bronzer. This is the Bronzer Butter Bomb, and I got this one in the shade Dune, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. I was not intending to pick this up at all. I actually went in to pick up the Fenty one, and then I was like, oh, let me go feel the Summer Fridays one, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. It's kind of this very thin veil. It definitely has a little bit of like grease to it, but as soon as you put this on the skin and blend it out a little bit, it almost turned powdery on the swatch. I will say that it feels different on the face than it does in the swatch, but it's not a bad thing. The powder doesn't stick to the grease of the bronzer and doesn't like eat up the powder, you know. It actually does allow itself to powder down and mattify itself. I think it is the perfect amount of glow to where I can put that powder over it and it kind of tones down that shine, but it doesn't look like, you know, your powder and your cream bronzer are fighting each other. It's not every day that I just like walk into Sephora and just pick something up without doing heavy research on it beforehand or having a plan, and this was one of the times that I did just randomly pick it up, and I'm very happy with it. The Kosas Impressionist sticks, these have made waves and I did not intend to get two of them. I actually went into Sephora a couple weeks back and I picked up the shade Vibration thinking I was picking up the shade Vital, but honestly, Vibration, this shade is tea. It's so good. It's like this hot pink, almost magenta shade, but it blends into the skin and it kind of looks like this mix between a warm hot pink and peach shade that just looks alive and bright and juicy on the cheeks. And then Vital is beautiful if you want something a little bit more nuanced, if you want something that kind of just brings out the natural warmth of the skin, if you are a neutral undertone that leans warm such as myself. This one kind of like anchors brighter shades onto the cheeks and I think it looks so beautiful. I have been loving these a lot. They are definitely more on the high pigment side, but they're super easy to blend and I have no troubles with it. It doesn't ever look patchy. It is more on the hydrating creamy side. It does seem to have a lot of oil elements to it, so I like to dust a little bit of loose powder on top of these and you still can see that glow, but it's not too much, and I like using them underneath my powders as well as on top. It works so great either way, and the color actually lasts throughout the day too. I actually feel like these have slightly better lasting power than the House Labs Glossy Bombs. Those are beautiful earthy tones. I love them, but they are very hydrating and glassy on the cheeks. This can definitely look like that, but if you powder it down, it gives you a bit more longevity. And even if you don't powder it down, like I use it on top of a powder, it still lasts all day. These are so good. I'm really enjoying these. I haven't had a chance to talk about the Sarah Creole mousse blushes. These are the Blurring Press mousse blushes. This is the Coming In Hot Blurring Press mousse blush in the shade Sunshine. Again, it's going to be that moussey, bouncy texture that we've been seeing. I think it's really good, but I think it's really basic for this texture, like this sort of application. I don't think that it's worth the money because this is definitely going to be on the higher end luxury side of things. While it's really good, I do think that it came out at a time where we are seeing very similar products that perform very similarly, if not better. Now, this formula I think is really nice because it doesn't emphasize the textures on the skin. That kind of comes with the territory of these bouncy blushes because they do have that very high pearl, like satiny finish to them. It does dispense a very soft amount of color and it's definitely very buildable. And something that's really nice about these textures is even though you put them on and you build and build, it never looks heavy or cakey. I find that it's really hard to mess this up since it builds up so slowly. While I do like this and I'm going to continue using it because it's very easy to use and I'm just really enjoying these textures, I probably wouldn't pay for another one. I definitely think I prefer the Glossier plush blushes more than I do these. I think I was passing judgment on this particular product too soon. So this is the Refi Water Blush and this one is in the shade Lychee. It's this beautiful bright pink that has warm undertones. There is a lot of product in this. It looks tiny. I looked at this and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so small and it's $24. I thought there was a lot less product because the nature of these like sponge compacts, they don't hold a lot of product, especially if you look at K-beauty products. But I will say, the first thing I noticed when I put my finger in there and I put my brush in there is that this thing is soaked. This sponge in here is soaked with the pigmentation. And when I looked, it said that it has 0.25 ounces or 7 grams, which is the exact same amount as a Rare Beauty liquid blush. That's really, really surprising to me. And I was like, oh, okay, so there's definitely a good amount of product in here. Now, might it dry out because it's in the sponge? Probably. So you have to make sure that you kind of click that door shut. So I use this and I find that it goes on top of foundation and concealer really well. It does move my concealer a little bit on the tops of my cheeks where I have the most hyperpigmentation and freckling, but I don't think that it moved it as much as I anticipated. When I was reading about this formula, I was really comparing it to House of Hers Moist Ampule blushes. I was thinking it was going to have very, very little, very sheer pigmentation, and it was going to be very watery to where it would kind of like move the product underneath. So there would have to be a very specific case scenario to use these. But to my surprise, this is a lot better in my opinion than the House of Her liquid blushes in terms of pigmentation. I do still consider this being more of a sheer type of blush, but it's very buildable on top of itself. If you allow yourself to do a layer, let it dry, and then do another layer, you can build this up to where you can very obviously see the blush, which is really nice. And I think it fits a lot better with our Western makeup trends. I like the compact specifically for the even dispersion on the brush, not necessarily for the on the go aspect of it, because if I'm being honest, I'm not really on the go with my blushes. This would be great for travel, I will say. I do feel like it would be a lot easier to get the liquid blush onto a brush from a sponge versus on the back of your hand where you kind of have to dab it in there and then like manually disperse it on the back of your hand. A lot less messy, a little bit easier to work with. It does say that it gives you a real life blush without the look of makeup, and I would agree with that. I think that it looks very natural on the skin because again, it's going to be that thinner layer. And I think that the best way to apply this is just to keep the product moving. Just do a couple dabs, let it dry down for a few seconds, and then continue to blend it out. I think that's going to be the best way to use this. I have used it under powder and on top of powder, and I think it works well on top of powder, but I think I like it better under my setting powders. So the NARS Insatiable liquid blushes, they did come out with these to replace their old liquid blushes. I did have one of those a long time ago, and I remember not being too wowed by it. I felt like there wasn't enough pigment, it was just too hydrated, and it definitely disturbed what was underneath it. Once they came out with these, I was interested, but I was again a little bit suspicious about how good the formula was going to be compared to the old one, but they did say that they reformulated based on the feedback that they were getting. This definitely has a thicker texture. I will give them that. It's a little bit more creamy, a little bit thicker of a consistency when it comes to the formula. It seems to still pick up the makeup underneath slightly, just very slightly. It's a lot better in my opinion, but I still notice it on the tops of my cheeks. It does powder down well. It's not too hydrated to where, you know, it's gonna cling to the powder, but I probably wouldn't use this over my powders. I think that this is one of the blushes where you can really build it up, get some strong pigmentation, and then kind of tone it down with your powder. Now at $36, I do think it's a little expensive. I do feel like something like the Rare Beauty liquid blush, the CL liquid blush, like those I'd probably reach for over this one. I even feel like the Say dewy blushes, I'd probably reach for those because it just feels like something that's a little bit more reliable for me. Something I admittedly was very excited about. The new Vila FR Plume blushes. If you don't know, I love Vila FR. I think that the brand, the packaging, the formulas, they're some of my favorites. So they recently came out with the Plume blushes. I bought two. I bought Enfouy. I don't even pretend to know how to speak French. I took Spanish in school, but This is the bright red shade. And then we have Ombre Rouge Fume, which is going to be the darker toasted red shade. So I have these two right here. Like I said, I think the packaging is so fun, so cute. Is it the most practical? Definitely not, but I do feel like they kind of go for that more artistic type of packaging, which I can respect. It's kind of part of their brand. I thought that it was gonna be that bouncy blush texture, but it's not. It's kind of like this hard pressed cream, which isn't a terrible thing. I just wasn't expecting it. I put my finger in there and I was like, oh, just kidding. It's just a cream blush. These are meant to be and are very sheer blushes, but I actually feel like they're quite buildable. Ooh, there's a scent to them. I just noticed that there's a scent. It's kind of a sweet vanilla scent. So these I like to tap my brush in and then go straight onto the skin. Because they are more sheer, I don't worry about it giving like a big blotch of pigmentation on the skin. And I do find that it blends really well on top of like a liquid cream concealer and foundation. I do think that on top of a powder though, it is more impactful. That's kind of the nature of blushes on top of powders though. But this is only going to give you so much color in one go. It's really hard to overdo this, which is kind of nice because these colors can look really intimidating in the pan, but it's actually quite a joy to work with. I do feel like this brighter red is kind of like a natural blush on me. Now reds, they are very natural on the skin for a lot of people, and I feel like the deeper one, this one right here, gives some really good dimension, but I probably wouldn't wear it alone. I feel like it kind of veers towards being a little bruisey on me, and that's just personal preference. I like something that's a little bit more peachy, a little bit more bright, and this one's really nice to kind of tone down this brighter red one. So these in conjunction are really, really beautiful, really nice, and they give a lot of depth to the cheeks. And a definite pro to these is that they didn't remove any foundation or concealer underneath them. I was looking really closely to see, because when you have to build up a product a lot, it's kind of bound to like remove stuff, but I felt like it was building on top of itself versus removing stuff underneath it. So that was really nice. Okay, I have the Ilia finishing powder, and if you guys know me, you know I really, really enjoy the Ilia Soft Focus Blurring Powder Blushes that they came out with last summer. Those are so beautiful, so like seamless on the skin. I really, really enjoy those. I have many of them at this point. So I was thinking that this was going to be a similar formula, and they kind of marketed it that way as well. I have the shade Medium Translucent, and you have this compact with this like sponge applicator. I've not used it that way. I probably should, if I'm being honest. And then you have the powder underneath. It looks exactly like the powder blushes, like the finish of it when you kind of put it on your finger, it has that same pearly finish, and it definitely does have a blurring aspect to it. It does have like a soft focus look, but honestly it doesn't really translate the same all over the skin versus like a blush on the tops of your cheeks. I think that this formula is a little bit too heavy on the skin, a little bit too pearlized to look like actual healthy skin versus, you know, having a veil of pearly powder on the skin. So if you were to compare this to the Hourglass veils, like the powder veils, this one does look heavier in my opinion. I can tell they were going for that soft focus finish, but I feel like it's just a little bit too much for me, especially as someone that does produce a lot of oil throughout the day. I think my natural oils coupled with the pearly finish of this is just not that flattering. I do think it's pretty as a touch-up powder. Like if I eliminate my oils, I do like a blotting sheet and then I do a little powder touch-up. I think it's nice for that. But I do feel like if you go heavy-handed on the skin when you're doing it as a finishing powder, it's just a little bit odd, and then it sits heavy like around the chin and around the upper lip for me. So let's talk about a couple of eyeshadow products, starting with the Viela FR Plume eyeshadows. These look almost identical to the Plume blushes, but obviously they're smaller, but they do have that same motif going on with the blue and then the gold on the inside right here. They kind of look like little pebbles. I think they're so cute. I have Bronze Dior and Plus Violette, which is this beautiful, beautiful purple, like lavender shade. And then of course this bronze that has some gold glitter in it. These are marketed again as being more sheer, kind of like an everyday just wash of color. So I knew that they were going to be sheer, but I'm surprised that I'm not fully disappointed, but I'm not fully in love with it. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle with these. So first off, the purple shade was the first one that I tried out. I thought that this was really pretty. I was really drawn to this color. It's a definite wash of lavender without being too much of a bold color from what I could see. And then I put it on and I felt like it was such a beautiful, subtle, fun way to do color. I felt like it was a slight pop on the eyes and you could really see it like popped really nicely, but it somehow like worked on the skin, you know? I do think that Bronze Dior is pretty, but I kind of wish that there was a little bit more dimension. It seems like there's just gold glitter in this, and when you blend it into the eyes, the glitter kind of dissipates and it doesn't really stick to the actual powder. It kind of just like is on the eyelid from wherever you tap it, you know, and it's just gold. I do wish that there was a little bit more of like a brown glitter or copper glitter with the gold and maybe a little bit of silver. I don't know what I was hoping for, but I feel like it's just okay. Like I could probably just be happy with the purple because it's so different. Now these I have tried with and without primers, and I will say I think they perform a lot better with an eye primer. They do crease really badly if you don't use an eye primer, and maybe if you're someone that is into more of that sheer eyeshadow, you won't necessarily care about, you know, eyeshadows creasing and stuff. You can just like rub it away with your finger or just blend it back out with your finger. That's definitely an option. Do I feel like I need to get the whole range? I did at first. When I first saw these, I was like drooling. I was like, oh my gosh, I need so many of these shades, but now that I've experienced it, I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay with these two. I'd probably be just okay with this. I am very interested in like the milky brown that they have. That looks like it would be a beautiful everyday color, like a one and done eyeshadow, but I kind of feel like I have shadows that look similar to it already. I will say that it does seem to be quite a unique texture from a lot of like regular single eyeshadows. This is definitely more of that cream to powder. It has like that bouncy texture to it, but unless you're using this and only this, I do find that it's a little bit overpriced for a single eyeshadow. If you are someone like me and you were like really drawn to this, because I can't think of a single sheer lavendery warm purple like this one on the market, I definitely think that this one at least is worth picking up. Here's a really, really interesting one, and we're moving into lips now. Tower 28, they came out with this plumping lip jelly. I have this in the shade Only Choice. The shade is beautiful. It's kind of this warm, milky pink. Well, I wouldn't even say milky. I would just say like a warm, light pink shade. It doesn't have your typical minty feeling with a plumper, and it doesn't have your typical spicy, hot, like irritating feeling from a plumper. It actually makes your lips feel like they're vibrating. And when I first heard that claim, I was like, okay, does it actually? And yes, it actually does. The best way that I can describe it is comparing it to a bubble mask. If you've ever used a bubble sheet mask or face mask and you feel those little bubbles like popping on your skin, it feels like that on the lips, but it doesn't tickle as much because I guess because it's more concentrated there. It feels like, you know, the fuzz on a TV screen. That's what I think of whenever I have this on. It's very distracting, if I'm being honest. I love the color. I feel like it does feel hydrating on the lips when I'm wearing it. It feels kind of like a lip oil, and it feels very comfortable and very plushy. And I wouldn't say that I notice it plumping the lips after the fact, like after the lip product wears off. I do think it looks fuller when I'm wearing it, but it also could be the fact that it's a gloss, and glosses just naturally make your lips look plumper. But I will say that this, compared to just a regular lip gloss, I do feel like it looks a little bit more juicy and plump. If you don't like a minty feeling, or you know, the taste of it, or if you don't like the spicy feeling, maybe this would be a good solution for you. But for me, I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. I think it's fun though. I think that this is innovative in the sense that it's something new, and it might solve a problem for people that are irritated by lip plumpers. I do find that this is something that I can wear and not have to worry about how my lips will react after the fact. Iris and Romeo came out with these lip cocoons, and I have not yet had the chance to talk to you guys about these, but I have been testing these for a few weeks now, if not a month, and These are so good. I feel like I try out a lot of lip products, and that includes a lot of different lip balms. I'm constantly testing new ones on the market, and I can confidently say that these, I think, are some of my new favorite lip balm formulas. I love my Edam Le Chouchou lip balms. I think that those are so nourishing and hydrating, followed by the Ulla Henriksen lip balms. And I think that these kind of fall into that same category of being very hydrating, but also very comfortable and plush. I really like Nourish, which is just going to be the clear one, because I have been using this as a lip balm to hydrate the lips, and it actually does feel very hydrating and cushiony. And the shade Freedom, these two have been my go-to, my most reached for. Like I said, they do feel very pillowy, very cushiony, and they kind of like grip onto the lips, so they have some pretty good lasting power for a lip balm. They're not going to be, you know, budge proof, fade proof, like smear proof. They're still going to act like a lip balm, but for all intents and purposes, if you're just wearing this and going about your day, this does fade very evenly, and it does have some good wear time. I never find that I have to use a lot of this product, so because of that, I never find that it gets goopy or like thick on the lips. I know that there's a lot of lip balms out on the market right now, but truly these feel like a very standout lip balm formula for me. Haus Lab Atomic Shakes, they did bring these back recently, and they came out with some sheer shades, and I picked up Sheer Petal and Sheer Blush. Sheer Blush is going to be a cooler mauvey tone, while Sheer Petal almost looks like it's a clear. If you swatch this, it essentially looks clear, but you can see a slight milkiness to it. I think that this is a great lacquer topper type of lip product. Like if you have a lip combo with a lip liner or something, and maybe even a lipstick, and you want to seal that in, I think Sheer Petal would be great for that. But I have used this with just a lip liner, and I actually think I prefer Sheer Petal over Sheer Blush. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, these are so sticky. They're so sticky, but they do last. They last such a long time on the lips. I don't think that I ever tried the original, but I know that a lot of people loved it. A lot of people were devastated when they took them away, and everyone was really excited when they came back. They will last on the lips, but it won't be an everyday for me. They're definitely not comfortable, and I've done the whole thing. I'm not new to this, you guys. I shake it for a really long time. I apply it, I keep my lips parted, I allow it to dry. I've allowed it to dry for like minutes, not just like 30 seconds or something. I've done like up to 5 minutes just having my lips parted, and it's just so sticky. It's so sticky on the center, and if you press your lips together at all, which you probably shouldn't with this type of formula, but if you do, it's very uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie. But if what you're looking for is something that's gonna stay put, these will definitely stay put. It's not going to be an everyday for me. These would be reserved for like a special occasion where I want my lip combo to last and I won't have to like reapply it too much, but it's just a sensory thing for me. I do find that there are other alternatives that are a little bit more comfortable, but I think that these two-in-ones where it's the pigment and the gloss are definitely more on the sticky side versus the dual-ended ones where it's the pigment and then like the sealant on the other side that's clear. I definitely prefer that format more than I do the two-in-ones. Now I don't need another lip liner, and we can argue all day about me not needing any more lip products. I agree with you, but I picked this one up because you guys asked me so much about what I thought about the YSL lip liners, and I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I picked up number 102 Tan Line. This color, you guys, is almost exactly the same color as the outside of my lips. So this is a perfect contouring, shaping lip liner where it just allows me to even out my lips because my lips are quite uneven. So this does have that same film forming bond texture that forms once it dries down. So it's similar if you've tried it to the Fenty lip liners and the Maybelline lip liners, but I would say that it's creamier than the Fenty ones because those can be a little bit tuggy on the lips. I think the standout is the fact that the color is just so perfect. It almost allows me to lay down a base and shape my lips, and then I can go on top of it with other products. Now I do think that this is an interesting formulation because it's really, really creamy upon application, but once it dries down, if you try to apply more on top of itself after it's already dried down, it will tug a little bit. So you have to make sure you kind of like work in sections here to get the most creamy, most buildable application to this, because it's not the most comfortable, and that's not the problem. I think the problem is like it can look a little patchy if you're not careful, like if you let it dry down too much. I do think that this lasts a good amount of time because again, it does have that dry down to it. I would say that it gives me, I'd say it gives me like 2 to 4 hours, just depending if I'm eating and drinking. On the shorter side of things if I am eating and drinking, but I will say that it's not fully fade proof. I have noticed that this has faded throughout the day. It's gone at the end of the day, but that's still pretty good in my opinion for a lip liner. And again, it could be because the color is a little bit too close to my lip color, so there's really not that much pigmentation there to begin with for me. Something that you guys asked me a lot about, the Hourglass Phantom Smoothing Blur Lip Balm. So this one I got in the shade Enigma 40. I could not pick a shade, you guys. I feel like this texture requires a very specific color, because if you go too light, then your lips look too washed out, and at least for me, I feel like it makes my lip lines look too emphasized and a little ashy. But then if you go too dark, then it just looks like, I don't know, just too much. But I'm very happy with this color. I think this color worked out perfectly for my use case. It's gonna be your standard blurry silicone based lip balm, like blurring lip balm, which isn't a bad thing. So it's definitely a very dependable blurring lip balm. It says that it's a gel base, and I think that the gel texture of it does come into play when you're applying this. It ultimately helps this kind of smooth onto the lips really nicely, and it allows it to disperse some even pigmentation. It's really hard to mess this up, I would say, and I love the shades, even though I had a difficult time with it, because they are curated to kind of look like an enhancement to a natural lip color, which is great. I think that's a really fun concept. It is kind of a narrow shade range, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up expanding on it. I do think that this is buildable, and it doesn't get uncomfortable when you build it on top of itself. Sometimes with these more silicone-y textures, it can just feel like a really heavy layer of lip product, but this actually, it sits really close to the lips, and I really appreciate that. I wouldn't say necessarily that it smooths out my lips, like my lip lines, as it says, it like blurs the lip lines, but I will give it to them. It doesn't emphasize the way that a matte lipstick would, or like a matte liquid lipstick, or even a matte bullet lipstick. Sometimes those can be quite heavy on the lips. I think that if you're a fan of Hourglass lip products, you would like this, but are there other brands or other price points of this same thing? Yes, I do think so. I have this Violette FR Bisou Balm, very similar. It has that like blurred lip. I have these in combination today, and they work pretty similarly. This doesn't have crazy long wear time. It does fade like a normal lipstick would, in my opinion. I do think the biggest pro about this are the colors, because with some blurry lip balm shade ranges, they're just too pink, they're too red. It doesn't really give a natural blushed lip look the same way that you can easily get with these. I stopped myself for a really long time from getting the new Idem Le Chouchou lip balm in Sakura Shaved Ice, but I finally caved, you guys. I couldn't help it. I held off buying this one because I was looking at it and I was like, I feel like it might wash me out. Like it might look a little bit too milky pink. No surprise here, I love it. The Idem Le Chouchou lip balm colors, formula, cannot be beat. This is a slightly lighter milky pink compared to Guava Fresca, which is going to be a warmer pink that I love. I think it's so beautiful, but this one is going to be just a little bit more of like a fresh bright color without looking too milky, and it doesn't sink into your lip lines because it does have that same really nice plushy hydrating formula that Le Chouchou lip balms have. And It has like this vanilla latte scent to it. It smells so good. You guys know I've been really loving more of a pinky lip color recently, and this has just been satisfying all those needs. A couple of things that are not makeup, but I want to talk about them because they're such good pickups for me. I'm not gonna lie. It's in the box because I think the presentation is so beautiful, but I've been wearing this so much. This is the Reveda Mango Muse Eau de Parfum. It's the fragrance of awakening, and it's a mango and vanilla musk scent. And look how beautiful that is. Oh my goodness. So this is an Indian owned fragrance brand, and this, my goodness, if you guys are a fan of mango, I can't get enough of this. So you guys know I'm very sensitive to fragrances. A lot of them will give me headaches. So I have to be very careful with the different fragrances and notes and stuff that I try or I wear, because I can love the scent, but once I get it on myself, sometimes it can trigger a headache very easily. But I'm very happy to report that this has yet to give me a headache, and mango is my favorite fruit in the world. It's the best. I grew up eating mangoes. I love mangoes, mango sticky rice, mango and anything, honestly. So this has notes of bright mango, vanilla musk, cardamom milk, and white florals. And the best way I can describe this is it smells like a juicy, bright mango, like a champagne mango. Although it has those florals in it, it's not too floral. I don't like a floral fragrance. The cardamom milk I feel like comes out because it's slightly spicy, but once it dries down, I think that's when it really shines, because after a few hours of wear, like on my skin right now, it smells different than it does like sniffing the bottle, because once it dries down, it kind of very, very slightly smells like mango sticky rice because of that cardamom milk. But the mango is still the most prominent, most noticeable and bright like note in this. It doesn't go sour on me. A lot of fruity fragrances, as I've said in the past, they just smell sour on me even after, like, either directly after spraying or, you know, hours in. This does not. It stays smelling like a juicy mango. It's so good. So I get about 5 hours of wear on this before I feel like I really have to like do this number to smell it. But I'm not someone that goes crazy on the amount of fragrance that I wear at one time. I'll do like 4 sprays on my whole body, maybe 6 if I'm feeling really brave. But I'll do like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and the mist on this is really nice. It's a very fine mist. I'll show you guys. That's a good mist. That's a really good one. It smells so good. It makes me happy. If there's any fragrances that I love and I want to wear all the time, that's not just like a clean fragrance, it's mango and it's rice. I love those scents. Okay, lastly is this MEJ Big Effing Clip. Now, before you guys come for me, I know this is expensive, but I've had my eye on another MEJ clip because this one I got in PR from Rare Beauty, I want to say like 2 years ago maybe. And this, along with my Chunks hair clip, have been my go-to hair clips. I have broken at least 3 other hair clips since I started using this one. This has power. It sounds really squeaky, but I'm telling you guys, this is built so well. I have had no issues with this. It's the perfect size to get all of my hair, because I find that with my Chunks clip, my big Chunks clip, sometimes there's a little bit of extra space, so my hair doesn't feel as tightly intact as it does with my MEJ clips. This is just the perfect size to get all of my hair. And you guys, I have a lot of hair and I need a strong clip. This style is called Lychee, and it has this pearly finish to it. It's like this beautiful pink, and I just thought it would look so pretty in the hair. I cannot go without this clip. I travel with it. I use it every day. It's such a good go-to. I love it. So I finally got another one because I was like, you know, this has done me so well and it would be nice to have a different color. All right, guys, those were all of the products that I have used. I have tested out. I'm still testing out for you guys. If you have any additional questions or any like follow-up questions for me, leave them in the comments down below. I'll be sure to answer you guys there. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know what you guys are most excited for within in this like haul video. I know it's been a lot, but I wanted to make sure that I tried to cover everything because like I said, we are getting so many new releases and I felt like it was starting to feel like a lot. So I just had to get this video out for you guys and hopefully it was helpful for you. If you guys are interested, I will leave another video right here that YouTube's actually going to recommend to you. But until next time, you guys, I hope that you take care of yourselves and I'll see you very soon. Bye.